Why does my face look like that?
No, it's okay there. Fine. Yeah, I'm sort of up against the wall. The insurance company needs proof fast. Things are sort of weird at Breeze. I don't overstay my welcome.
Things get tough. You can always stay here.
I'm sorry, did you just invite me in with you?
You and Julie in the spare bedroom. And you're right.
Sure, I won't put a crimp in your dating life. And that girl you were at the movies with.
That was a one-time thing. But what about that guy, Orson?
Yeah, he just heard about the fire and came over to help my friends.
Oh. So, you're Orson's gang?
Guess not.
You have a boarding pass. Do what you need to do. Don't worry about the kids. I'll keep out of trouble.
This is crazy. Following Tom across the country just to spy on him. If he knew I was doing this. God, I can't go through with this.
There's probably nothing going on. But you need to know the truth.
Do I? I'm happy. I mean, I was. Why don't I just look the other way and pretend nothing's wrong? Lots of people can do that.
Well, we both know you're not one of them.
And what if we see him with another woman? What then?
I'm only gonna.
and a California dream. It's no Alabama dream. Eat your heart out, Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. This is California. The world looks to us to see that it's possible to live, advance, and prosper together across every conceivable difference. It's what makes this state great, that we don't tolerate that diversity as we once had, but we truly can look today and talk in terms of how we celebrate that diversity.
Well, Los Angeles seems to be a little bit on fire. This time it's mostly peaceful protesters, instead of mostly peaceful climate change. But my God, there just seems to be like a sea of Mexican flags. Mexican flags surrounded by cars getting set on fire, cops getting attacked, and just general chaos. So as you're probably aware, this all started over the weekend when ICE started rounding up a bunch of illegals to deport them back to Mexico or wherever. And I gotta say, among them were a bunch of pretty serious criminals. Now, a bunch of lefties in LA didn't like this and started rioting, as they do, and we're going to have a look at what's unfolded so far, because it's pretty interesting. In fact, I think I might get Tits involved with this, because I have a feeling it's going to be like a Summer of Love Part 2, and I think we might be covering this a little bit more, so let's go! Yeah, so as you saw by my intro, shit is popping off in LA.
The Summer of Love, hey?
Yeah, Part 2.
Summer love, ignite the gas.
So this all popped off over the weekend. There was a bunch of ICE raids because, as you know, when Trump was campaigning to be president again, he said there's too many illegals, we've got to fuck some of them off. And so he's just doing what he promised, basically.
Yeah, we're getting rid of the illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Now, please excuse me for a second. I do have a bit of a cold.
Yeah, so do I. You gave it to me. So anyway, there seems to be a bunch of Mexicans along with a bunch of lefties just causing chaos. They're burning American flags. They're setting cars on fire. They're attacking cops. Here's a bunch of cops stuck under an overpass.
Jesus.
Yeah, they're getting bricks and rocks and shit chucked at them. Here's another angle. They're trying to put out their police car that's been set on fire. More bricks, more rocks. So I wanted to kind of get a handle on this. Like, what's going on? What are the details? Now, I've been using Perplexity recently, not a sponsor, but I asked
used Perplexity.
what's going on. And it says Friday.
Does anybody else
ICE raids at multiple
use
sites.
Perplexity?
Tensions flare up between protesters and federal
It's like
agents.
chat
That
except
evening,
for
cops declare
it's
a citywide
Perplexity.
tactical alert. On Saturday, protests spread to Paramount and Compton. Agents deploy flashbangs and pepper balls. LAPD issues dispersal orders. Trump federalizes the California National Guard. Governor Newsom, American Psycho, calls that move inflammatory. On Sunday, the National Guard and the cops secure federal buildings. Law enforcement declares downtown LA an unlawful assembly. Clashes intensify, tear gas, flashbangs, etc. Protesters block the freeway. Then on Monday, the protests continue. Governor Newsom calls for a federal withdrawal because, Trump's the problem here. Law enforcement continues to disperse crowds. LAPD chief describes the situation as increasingly worse and more violent. So in summary, illegal immigrants are mad because they're being told to go home. And Perplexity gives me this big thing of, it's the fucking political tension, it's the cruelty, it's this and that, it's fucking rah rah rah. And so I said, and give me a short answer. Illegal immigrants are mad that they're being told to go home in a forceful manner. And Perplexity says yes. So I think Perplexity has a slight left-leaning bent. Anyway, let's get to some interesting stuff. There's going to be flame wars between Trump and Newsom. There's going to be politicians and media people calling these peaceful protests. It's amazing.
Cool, let's have a look. I mean, well, it's not cool, but let's have a look.
Now, I want to start with the president of Mexico. You'll never believe what she says.
Okay, what's her name?
I wouldn't have a fucking clue.
Lolita Enchilados.
Something like that.
The United States is what it is, truly. Also thanks to the dedicated work of Mexican men and women who live on the other side of the border. For us, as we have always said, they are heroes and heroines of the nation.
Oh, they're heroes.
What? She just doesn't want to take him back.
Yeah, I mean, this group of illegals that were arrested were largely criminals. We've got Cuong Chan Pan, who's Vietnamese. He was convicted of second-degree murder. Rolando Enriquez, Philippines, ironically. Jose, someone convicted of drug trafficking. Armando, linked to gang activity and sexual battery.
You gotta roll your R's a little bit more. Armando.
Armando.
Victor
Armando.
Mendoza, convicted of drug offences
I
and
don't
assault
know.
with a deadly weapon, and Lionel Sanchez, convicted of firearm offences, domestic violence, and child cruelty.
Jesus, Lionel.
Yeah, I know. Fucking hell, Lionel. So this is just like a sampling of the people that were rounded up. But I mean, they're clearly going for the bad guys first.
Yeah, the worst ones. The ones Mexicans don't want to take back.
Yeah, the heroes.
The heroine.
Come on.
Heroes and heroines of the nation.
So anyway, then we've got the flame war between Trump and Newsom. This is good. So Donald Trump truths or tweets or truth tweets or whatever the fuck. Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass.
Wait. New scum.
Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Bass should apologize to the people of Los Angeles for the absolutely horrible job they're doing.
Just horrible.
And this includes the LA riots. These are not protesters, they're troublemakers and insurrectionists. Looking really bad in LA, bring in the troops. And then we've got this totally real and not deepfake address from the Oval Office.
My fellow Americans, it is with overwhelming enthusiasm that I am declaring that anyone who protests or interferes with ICE and their operations is officially gay.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, it's obviously a deepfake.
Gay.
But there is a flame war. This is what Trump actually said. Now, I've tried to fix the sound in this. This is like an interview at a fucking airport.
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was on the fight
Yeah.
at this photo pen. When they spit at people, you know, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit and worse. You know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, they have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit.
Yes.
That's a good policy. I mean, imagine being a cop and being fucking spat on, or like a national guard.
Yeah, you don't know what's in their saliva. They might have fucking herpes for all you know.
And what's this other thing? Are they throwing like shit?
Oh
on
man,
them?
are you serious right now?
The shit from?
Well, they're probably just shitting in their hands, the dirty fuckers.
Wow, these guys are
Nobody's gonna
so
spit
vulgar.
on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military. Which they do is the common thing. They get up to it this far away and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
They get hit very hard. So then we've got Gavin Newsom on the defense. Now, Gavin Newsom reckons that Trump is like inflaming this whole situation,
Okay.
which is just ridiculous.
Not the protesters lighting shit on fire.
Yeah.
No, they're not inflaming anything.
This is your authority normally to deploy the National Guard here. You did it. We were together after the fires, and those National Guard troops have been out all across Los Angeles working to rebuild and recover the city. How did you find out that the President of the United States was going to usurp your authority and deploy your National Guard here in California?
I got a call from a staffer. No heads up whatsoever.
So Donald Trump has like sent in the National Guard, didn't even pick up the phone to tell Gavin Newsom. Just fucking did it. Fuck you, you can't control your state, we're sending in the troops.
Isn't it amazing that California just went through one of their worst fire disasters ever, and people are lighting shit on fire left, right, and center?
Yeah, that's amazing.
What's your message to those people who are out there tonight? Not the peaceful protesters that are out there protesting for the rights of immigrants, but for the people that are doing damage to buildings, to law enforcement.
So just ask Gavin, what would you say to the protesters who are like setting shit on fire and fucking shit up?
Damaging property.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing more than damage to buildings and to property. They're potentially damaging the very foundation of our republic.
Oh, they are? So the people setting shit on fire, Gavin, are a threat to your republic. That's not what he's saying. He's talking about fucking Trump here. He's just like deflected his answer to something completely different.
It always seems to be deflected towards fuck Trump, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's the way they want to spin the narrative.
Yeah.
The democracy is
Oh man.
in the balance. I mean, you're seeing these authoritarian tendencies now being acted out by this administration. And we're case in point as it relates to nationalizing, federalizing the National Guard, threatening now to put in Marines.
See, the question was about protesters and rioters setting shit on fire. And his answer is like, oh, authoritarian, fascist, fucking Trump bad, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, he's not addressing them at all.
No.
So I hope these people will pause and just consider. Now, some of them, they want that kind of chaos. Some ways, they're adjacent to where Donald Trump is. But the peaceful protesters, we want to keep them safe. We want them to exercise their fundamental rights. They're enforcing the laws in a respectful and responsible way, also safe. But Donald Trump needs to pull back. He needs to stand down. Donald Trump is inflaming these conditions. This is Donald
Where's the gall of this motherfucker? Donald Trump is inflaming the situation. I mean, what a choice of words.
I have to wonder, how many of these people do you think just jump on the protest bandwagon?
A lot of them.
Yeah, they just see, oh, someone's fucking up a cop car. I'm going to have me some of that.
Yeah, well, the term I've heard more and more recently is riot season. See, during the summer months, like, Americans tend to riot about shit. You know what I mean? Like, that George Floyd shit happened in, like, May or June or something. It was, like, prime riot season.
It's a beautiful day outside for some rioting.
Yeah, because, like, leftists are, like, it's so, like, if it's too cold, they don't want to riot. You know, it's too cold.
All of this is about immigration enforcement and the type of well, go ahead, feel free.
No, I mean, even chaotic is about something much more.
Oh, what's it about, Gavin? If it's not about immigration enforcement, what's it about? I bet he's going to say fucking fascism or something like that.
Oh, God.
It's Trump's dictatorship.
This is about authoritarian tendencies.
Oh, called it.
So called it.
Fucking Gavin Newsom.
Authoritarianism tendencies.
This is what he promised, right? Let's be clear about that. He did his campaigning, and this is what he promised he would do.
This is about command and control. This is about power. This is about ego. My way or the highway. This is a consistent pattern of practice of recklessness. This guy is abandoning the core principles of this great democracy.
I mean, it's just all buzzwords, isn't it? Fascism, authoritarianism, dictatorship. He's abandoning the principles of this democracy. It just gets old, doesn't it? Now, this next one is a fucking classic.
When the Borders are said to me yesterday, he did not rule out literally arresting you, nor Mayor Bass, if you interfere in his work.
He's a tough guy. Why doesn't he do that? He knows where to find me.
Do it, Trump, do it.
I mean, I don't know what he'd arrest him for. I mean, he's obviously, like, incompetent as a governor, but I don't know what he could be arrested for. I'm not sure. I'm happy to spectate.
But you know what? Lay your hands off 4-year-old girls that are trying to get educated.
What?
Trump's coming after 4-year-old girls now.
Where did that come from? Whoa, that was out of left field.
I mean, I'm sure there are some 4-year-old girls, like, amongst families that are being deported. That's just the way it is. Like, what are you going to separate the families? I still think it's the case in America that if you're born there, you're like an anchor baby.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, I'm not sure. These 4-year-old girls are, like, either being sent home with their parents because they're 4-year-old girls, they need their parents, or they're illegal immigrants. I don't know.
Lay your hands off these poor people who are just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear. The horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy.
The next day, the President of the United States is calling for the arrest of a city governor. Oh no, Gavin. This is a day I hoped I would never see in America. Well, isn't that a shame, Gavin?
Look at that picture of Trump.
That's his mugshot. Now, I know Trump wasn't sitting when he got arrested, but how does it feel, Gavin?
Yeah. Can we just talk about the tax thing again?
Yeah, I was going to touch back on that. The tax thing.
Is he serious?
Well, I mean, he could be talking about... So what we're referring to is like when he said, these are like hard-working, tax-paying people.
Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years.
Yeah, they've been here for 10 years paying their taxes. Really?
Well, I mean, they're going to be paying, like, sales tax, obviously, and they're going to be paying, like, fuel excise when they fill up their fucking trucks, right? But, like, I don't think they're paying income tax.
Hell no, they're not. Where are they sending it to? They don't have green cards. They don't have social security numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they would give them, like, tax identification numbers. I mean, are they, like, lining up at fucking Walmart, going and working on a farm for a day, taking their cash, divvying off a little bit, throwing it in, like, an envelope, and just leaving it on the doorstep of the fucking IRS? I don't think they're doing that.
Yeah, they put a wad of cash in an envelope and address it to Mr. President. To the IRS, this is my tax for the year. Thank you for allowing us illegals to work in your wonderful country.
Love heart, love heart.
Keys, keys.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
They're not going to do anything that's going to allow the government or the IRS to trace them as illegals.
Yeah, I know. It's just fucking dumb. And speaking of stuff that doesn't fucking happen, right? I can't find the clip, but I saw like a group of like rioters screaming. Like, no ICE, no KKK, no fascist USA. Now, I don't have my ear on the ground in America, obviously. I'm not from America. But is the KKK a real problem? You know what I mean? Like, at least ICE is fucking tangible. At least they're there, they're real. Like, does anyone have a KKK problem? Does anyone go down to the fucking shops on a Friday night and go, oh, it's those fucking KKK members again?
Yeah.
They're causing a menace down at the bottle shop. I don't think that's happening. So anyway, now we're at the reality denialism portion of this video.
Okay.
So this is a sitting congresswoman from California.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there protesting.
I love how she says that when there's video of it's burning shit down right next to it.
Yeah.
Peaceful protest.
Saying the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting.
Oh, he just doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting. Okay, lady.
Bitch, they're lighting shit on fire.
Yeah.
What exactly is peaceful protest to you?
Yeah, I know. And what's violent protest? What do you got to do to be violent protesters or rioters? I mean, this whole thing fucking kicked off because ICE were doing their lawful raids, and the fucking LAPD couldn't step up and fucking defend the federal agents from protesters and rioters.
Yeah.
Trump had to send in the National Guard.
So what happens when the military gets involved?
Well, he's got to declare an insurrection for that to happen.
Okay.
So apparently there are a bunch of Marines on standby, but they're just there to support. They can't enforce law unless an insurrection has been declared.
And what is support exactly?
Well, support is I suppose clean up and just helping the fucking National Guard, helping the cops.
That's boring.
You know, it's not battening. But that Democrat bitch reminds me of remember a few years ago with the Kenosha riots and shit? There was a bunch of clips of MSNBC and CNN saying, oh, fiery but mostly peaceful.
Oh, fuck off.
What you're seeing behind me is one of multiple locations that have been burning in Kenosha, Wisconsin over the course of the night.
Look at that headline. Fiery but mostly peaceful protests after police shooting.
Yeah, meanwhile, I can't hear you over the fucking shit exploding in the background.
Yeah. This is MSNBC in Minneapolis after the George Floyd shit. Generally speaking, unruly. There's a fucking building burning down behind you.
Yeah, isn't the definition of unruly a police building on fire?
Yeah, I'd say that fits the definition. Here we've got Karen Bass. She's the mayor of LA. Remember she was in that fire video we did? She was at the fucking airport in Botswana or something, just in a stunned silence when she was being questioned by the media.
Yeah, she went on holiday to Jamaica or some shit.
Yeah.
I think actually the communication and collaboration has been good. Most of the day today, and people are literally working in the same room together. The CHP is there, the Federal Protective Services are there, the National Guard wasn't there, but everybody is in communication, and I think that's why things have gone well. I mean, you haven't seen massive violence take place.
Oh, things are going well. You haven't seen massive violence take place. Bitch, there's fucking cars on fire fucking everywhere.
She's not a very bright one, Miss Bass, is she?
No, she's not. But anyway, that's sort of what's happening. A lot of the cars that seem to be targeting are these fucking self-driving, I think they're taxis or something.
Teslas.
Yeah, probably. But you know what I find ironic is the way that they've got these things on the roofs that look like sombreros. Anyway, that's what's happening as far as I can tell. Shit's going to unfold. This is going to get fucking spicy soon, I think. And there's apparently a heap more protests planned for all around America and shit. So yeah, this could pop off, man. This is what I thought we might be able to expect after the inauguration. I think they just waited for the weather to be nice.
Yeah.
But this is the kickback to the Trump administration.
I think you're right. The Mexicans were just waiting for some weather that was more akin to where they came from.
Yeah.
We don't like it cold. We don't like it ice.
Anyway, we'll leave it there. Visit Sugar Tits. She has a channel.
Yes, please do.
And we'll catch you later. Thanks for watching. Ta-ta. Bye-bye.
See ya.
ball rolling. Number one, what type of insurance would be used for a return of premium rider? A.
Return a premium rider. What type of insurance would be used for a return of premium rider?
Decreasing term, B, annual renewal term, C, increasing term, or D, level term. Here you go, baby. You can see. Go ahead and get it back. So what type of insurance would be used for return of premium term? Okay, so let's talk about this, okay? Let's screenshot it and let's get the ball rolling. Okay, so here we go. Zoom in, here we go. So return, oops, too fast. Return of premium, or ROP. This is a type of term insurance that you get your premiums returned back to you. That's what it says, right? Return of premium term. Premiums, refund. So you get premium refunds. Damn, that sounds pretty good, right? You pay for term insurance, and if you don't die, you live, you get your money back. Is that awesome or what? See, the thing is that what they're not going to tell you is that these type of policies, they're also known as AKA, okay? AKA, they're called increasing term. Increasing term. So how does increasing term work? Increasing term works like this. Check it out. Increasing term, I'm going to draw it up here. So increasing term works like this. You're going to be paying, let's say $100 a month. And what's going to happen is that your coverage goes up every year. Every year it goes up, coverage. So every step that you're seeing right here is a year. So the coverage goes up. See that? So you first start with, let's say you start with, $250,000 in coverage. But then you end up, by the time the term is over, let's say it's a 30-year term. By the time the term is over, you end up with about $350,000 in coverage. See that? That's called. So this is gonna be blue. It's called increasing term. Make sense, guys? All right. So in red, what I'm gonna use a red color. Oh, what happened here? Let's go back. So I'm gonna use a red color. Kind of thick. The red color is going to be level term. So level term, so I'm going to use the legend, level term, okay? Level term, let's say you start with $150,000 in coverage, but instead of paying $100 a month, you're going to pay $60 a month. See that? So it's not like you're getting your money back. It's just that the insurance is getting higher because they're using increasing term to get your money back. Does that make sense, guys? So you're paying a little bit more for the benefit to get your money back. Level term doesn't get your money back. You start at $250,000, you end at $250,000, okay? But the premium is a lot less. Okay, screenshot that. I'm done. Okay, screenshot that, because that's going to be a really good way for you to remember what is increasing term and level term. All right, so now let's talk about this. Now that you know that, what's the answer? Well, what type of insurance is return of premium term? Easy, right? Oops, wrong color. It's green. It's increasing term. You see that? So if you remember that return of premium rider is increasing term, then return of premium is increasing term, then you're going to get this question right, okay? So just remember that. Return of premium, increasing term. That's it. Nothing else to learn on that. So let's go to the next one. If you want to screenshot the rationale, not a bad idea. You should screenshot the rationale all the time. All right. Sounds good, guys. So let's go to the next one. No, 2, the death benefit under the universal life option B is decreases by the amount that the cash value increases for the first few years of the policy, and then it levels off, remains level, or gradually increases each year where the amount of cash value increases. Ooh. Okay. Alright, let's screenshot this. So here we go. One thing you need to know about universal life policies, which are also known as flexible premium adjustable life. Bro, why are you telling me this? We're talking about option A and option B. Well, you gotta know that universal life is the only one that gives you options, option A or option B. But while we're at it, I want you to know that universal life is the same thing as flexible premium adjustable life. FPAL, flexible premium adjustable life. So on the test, they might say, like this question says, the death benefit of a flexible premium adjustable life, option B. You see what I mean? So if you don't know that flexible premium adjustable life is universal life, then you're going to get this question wrong. So it's good to know the AKAs, okay, the also known as. All right, so let's talk about this. Option A and option B. Option A, all right, you ready for this? It's called level death benefit. And option B is increasing death benefit. Does that make sense, guys? So, no, it doesn't. What the heck does that mean, right? All right, so it's a little bit complicated, but I'm gonna explain it to you. But based on the information that I just gave you, you would say that the answer is actually D, right? Because it's D. Because the premium actually does increase. I mean, the face amount, right? But gradually, so the death benefit gradually increases each year by the amount of the cash value increases. So it's an increasing death benefit. Or oh, how come it's not B? B says also increases. Well, B says it increases in the first years and then it levels off. And no, it doesn't level up. It either goes up or down. Alright, it increases if the cash value increases. So increasing death benefit means that if you start at $300,000 in coverage, but the cash value is $10,000, then what are you getting? What's the death benefit? It's an increasing death benefit, so it's going to be 300 plus 10,000 is 310,000 death benefit if that person were to pass away. Level death benefit option A says if the coverage starts at 300,000 and then there's put $10,000 in cash value and then they die, how much do the family get? The beneficiaries get in option A, they get $300,000. They lose the $10,000. That's called a level death benefit. That means the $300,000 is level and never changes, even if there's another $100,000 in cash value. All right, you're with me, guys. Hopefully, you're with me, man. Give me a, there's little reaction things. You could go applause. You could go hearts. All right. You could go thumbs up. Okay, so I'm gonna see some reaction. And what's up, guys? Talk to me. You guys getting this stuff or what? Thumbs up, Justin. All right. Oh, Justin, you're fast. What are you doing, man? Alondra, pass. All right. Thumbs up. All right. Good. All right. If you guys have questions, go ahead.
Just kind of refreshing my mind a little bit. That's why I'm here. I don't want to just like pass the test. Yeah, I guess cool. Like kind of like it's good to like just go back and refresh a little bit.
Yeah, man. And you know what? It's good because one day you're going to be teaching the class too and helping your people pass too. So that's good. That's good. All right. So let's go ahead and stop this right here, and let's answer D. There it is. Go ahead and screenshot that, guys. Screenshot that. Increasing death benefit is option B. So remember, option A is level death benefit. Okay. So option B is increasing increasing death benefit. Why does it increase? Because cash value is going up, so it increases to the cash value. So you get both, right? If you die, you get both. Option B. Option A, if you die, you only get one, which is a coverage one. All right, enough on that. Number 3. Which of the following elements in an index universal life policy is tied to an index? Which element is tied to an index? Is it the premium? Is it the premium? And the answer. So
I don't know who's watching, but whoever it is, comment
the premium
something.
is not tied to an index. The premiums are money that's going into the policy, and the premiums pay for the insurance coverage and the cash value. Okay, is it the cash value? Yes. If that was your answer, you got it right. Cash value is what is invested in the index. So
Come on, I just want to make
So the cash
the.
value is the answer. Okay. Death benefit? No, the death benefit is not tied to an index. Even though it's kind of tricky here because
Come on, no.
it's part of it. Because if it's option B, then some of the death benefit is
Infuriates me.
right? But it didn't ask if some of it is. It asked all of it, right? Is it the face amount? That's the same thing as death benefit. These two are the same thing, right? This one is the same thing. All right. So it says which of the following elements, the entire element in an index universal life is tied to an index? The cash value is tied to an index, right? All right. Let's go. Be fast, be swift on screenshotting stuff, all right? We're gonna be going pretty quick. If you have any questions, just type it up, all right? Type it up in the chat or unmute yourself. There it is, guys. Which of the following elements is index universal life policy tied to an index? Cash value. Let's go to the next one. Oh, another death benefit option. Which option for universal life allows the beneficiary to collect both the death benefit and the cash value upon the death of the insured? Come on, guys. Come on. We just went over this, right? Let me help you. It's for sure not going to be B. All right? So not B and not C. Okay? Remember, we just went over this. Option B is called increasing death benefit.
So you all need to learn how to hack it, because your vagus nerve is very important. It's the rest and relaxation nerve. It restores and repairs. It's anti-inflammatory.
So everybody's
Because
got so
everything
much
else is
anxiety all the
inflammatory.
time. Because their
Anything
vagus
is
nerve isn't.
inflammatory. Eating is very inflammatory.
Exercise isn't
I just happened
inflammatory.
to see someone eating in the audience. So right after the eating, you need anti-inflammatory. I told you eating is dangerous.
Yeah.
You want to restore all that muscle that you tore, all that running around, all that chemistry running around.
Oh my gosh, can I make
Platelets
this?
became sticky.
Come on,
They
come
need
on,
to
come on, come
become unstuck. Platelets become sticky. You get stressed out. Of course you're going to get a heart attack because the platelets are going to get all sticky. In parasympathetic, the platelets start flowing around again. They're no longer sticky. And these studies have all been done. When stress causes degranulation of your platelets become sticky. So what makes them become unsticky? What makes the platelets not degranulate? Your parasympathetic system. See, that's why it's so important to do this. And then it is the relaxation. All that tone has to change. You can't stay in that tone. It has to relax. That's your parasympathetic. Digestion. You need to digest. When you are digesting, it's parasympathetic. So if you're stressed out, can you digest your food? You can. Look, when you're stressed out, how is your parasympathetic going to send signals out that, okay, let's get the juices going here. Okay, all the juices have gone inside the squeeze. All the glands are working good now. Now let's get that bowel moving a little bit here. Okay, let's close the pylorus for a while. Let the stomach fill up. And who's doing all that? Who's doing all that? Who's sending out all that instruction? It's the parasympathetic nervous system. So you cannot be stressed and eat at the same time. The yin and the yang. You can't do that. That's why don't eat when you're stressed out. You come to a lecture, you're going to get stressed out. Don't eat. Don't eat in the car.
I do that sometimes.
Eat in a restful state, because then your parasympathetic system is going to be helping you digest food, helping you to break it all down, sending all the right signals, doing all the right things.
Hello?
You cannot have the parasympathetic and sympathetic system working at the same time. Stop it. You think you can do it? I know I'm
Is anybody
multitasker.
there?
You're not a multitasker, okay? Your body is not yet trained to do that. It's a human trait. Your body is not made to do that. You cannot have two things on at the same time. You need either AC or DC. You can't be both at the same time. You'll get a short circuit. Right? You'll get a short circuit. Reproduce. After all, at the end of the day, what does nature want you to do? Wants you to reproduce. Let's remember that. What's the goal of life? To reproduce. Yeah. Nature wants you to reproduce. So what does the vagus nerve do? It prepares you for that. But in order to do that, you have to be a good specimen. You've got to be a strong specimen. You've got to be an attractive specimen. Right? You've got to be a healthy specimen. So you just think about it. The vagus nerve kicks in, is preparing you to reproduce. It's going to make the best specimen out of you. Because after all, it wants only the best to be going on to the next generation. And you need to understand this. So when people, you look at them, they're really stressed out and they're having a real hard time conceiving, let's say, I'm just giving you an example. Part of the problem is stress. And the moment they de-stress, now all of a sudden, you know, the test comes back positive. It's fantastic, right? Sperm counts go down with stress? Of course they do. Absolutely they go down. You all know that the cycles, your ovulation cycles also change because of stress. Sympathetic all the time, no parasympathetic. So you're out of sync. Too much yin and no yang. The two-way information pathway, it's not inflammation, it's information, sorry, that's a typo, it's information highway to the brain, and it's instructing the biochemistry in your body every moment of your day. You can't look after your vagus nerve. It is the most important nerve in the body. And then it's a survival strategy because you cannot be in one mode all the time. I already told you. Homeostasis depends on the vagus nerve. What do you mean by homeostasis? This is a term that I want you to all become familiar. Homeostasis is keeping you within a certain range. You cannot be only in one. There's a little range. You've got a wide lane. So you can go to this side, then a little bit to this side. That's called resilience as well, right? That I can tolerate some stress, but then I come back to the midline. I tolerate some stress, I come back to that ability to do that is your vagal tone. If you have good vagal tone, you're going to have good resilience. That means that if you missed a meal and 5 hours have gone by, yeah, you're going to be okay. Nothing bad's going to happen to you. Whereas the one who doesn't have resilience is going to be really out of shape because he didn't have a meal. Or you're in a high temperature, or you're in a cold temperature, or you didn't have the right kinds of foods, for example, or you're in a very stressful situation for many, many hours. You'll be able to tolerate that better if you have greater vagal tone. And it controls the inflammatory pathway. What does that mean? You cut yourself, of course there's going to be inflammation. Because everything has to be repaired now. All those dead cells have to be gone. The bacteria have to get out over there. You're going to create some water in there. It's going to swell up. But then it's going to start healing now. The vagus nerve orchestrates. See? So we know certain people heal faster than others. How come? How come? It's because of all these pathways. Hormesis. Another term I want you to become familiar with. Hormesis. What do I mean? I'm always talking about hormesis. Hormesis means stress. You need to stress yourself out. Why? Because after that, you'll get parasympathetic. And that's going to make you stronger. So hormesis is a stress that doesn't kill you. What kind of stress am I talking about when I talk about this? One is fasting. When you fast, that's a hormesis on your body. That's a stress on your body. It's my favorite hormesis of all is fasting. And I've talked about that on lots and lots of it. That's my favorite hormesis. Everyone must fast. Everyone must do time-restricted feeding because we're supposed to do time-restricted feeding. And then depending on your goals, whether you do 3-day water fast, 5-day water fast, depends on your goals. Do you want to reverse your diabetes? Do you want to get rid of your blood pressure? Do you want to get rid of your inflammatory bowel disease? Or are you just doing this to be healthy? Well, then that's fine. Then you can do 18-6. Or you can do OMAD if you want to do that. So it just depends on your goal. Do you want to come off your insulin? It all depends. But I love hormesis because after the stress, what happens next makes you stronger and better. And that process is orchestrated by the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is going to get you there. So, another form of hormesis is like heat, like infrared sauna. Sweat.
Yeah, or like running
really sweating like crazy.
for 3 miles.
And then what happens after that? Why come you feel so good afterwards? Because your vagus nerve just kicked in. Because while you were inside,
Or
there,
cold.
you're all sympathetic. You're sweating like crazy.
Cold is good
temperature
too.
went up, your heart rate went up, right? Your vasodilated like crazy.
Dang it.
And then when you got out, hopefully you got out and took a cold shower.
I took a cold shower this
That's
morning.
even better. Now the cold shower kicks in, and that really stimulates your vagus nerve. Then all of a sudden your heart rate, which was up, comes down real fast. You start feeling so excited.
Yeah, I felt so much better after my cold
Makes you
shower.
feel good. Part of it being the photon energy particles and the electron chains, and all fine. All that's fine and dandy. Bottom line is, it's a form of hormesis. Cold immersion, also a form of hormesis, and it stimulates your vagus nerve big time. Anytime you're stimulating your vagus nerve, you're going to get the repair process more resilience. So, every day, turn on the shower, take a shower, it's fine, nothing wrong with that. But then make it cold, ordinary temperature, for at least a minute, 2 minutes. If you can go a little bit longer, do it for a little bit longer. And then if you want to make it warm again, you can. I don't mind. As long as you went from hot to cold, or hot to cold in and out, it's fine with me.
Yeah.
But when you get these temperature variations, what's being affected in your body? It's the vagus nerve. It's the vagus nerve. At that point, it's all about the vagus nerve. So you're stimulating the vagus nerve. So in a natural way, that resilience depends on your vagal tone. I already said that. That it's very important that you have resilience in your body. So this is the vagus nerve. Look how big it is. It's massive.
It's huge.
The largest nerve in the body comes out of the brain, and there are 2 branches, one on the right side and alongside your carotid. Okay, it goes along your carotid on both
Whoopsie.
sides, comes out, gives all the branches I told you about. So why did I mention the eyes? Because if you rub on your eyes, your heart rate will go down. You're stimulating the vagus nerve. So guess what? If you're sitting somewhere, don't do this while you're driving, but if you're sitting somewhere, you can put your hands on your eyeballs and just give it a gentle massage, not a rub, just a gentle massage. You've just stimulated your vagus nerve. Then looking to the left, looking to the right, using your eyeballs to move them from side to side. Keep that position for 5 seconds. Look to the right, keep it there for 5 seconds. Those eyeball movements stimulate your vagus nerve. See the hacks I'm teaching you? I'm teaching you hacks on how to hack your vagus nerve. The next one.
I rub my eyes sometimes.
I told you the vagus nerve goes around the carotid. How can I hack it?
Oh man.
Those little plastic things you put in your freezer, the blue ones, right? Take it out. Take it to work. Hey, take it to work. Put it along your neck. Just put it there. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It will stimulate that vagus. You'll do it. So you do it on the left, then do it on the right.
Also
You say,
cold.
what did you bring the ice pack for? It's not for food. No, it's for my neck. It's for my vagus nerve.
Yeah, feels good.
That's why I brought the pack. Put it back inside, take it home, put it back in the freezer. Great idea. Now, there are stimulators for this as well. So you can do that too. You can pay a couple of $1,000 and, or maybe less, buy a stimulator. Put it along here and you stimulate. It gives a little weak electric current. Some people feel it, some people don't feel it. Now, would I advise all of you to do it? No. Who is it approved for right now? It's approved for. Now, watch this. It's approved by the FDA for migraine and seizures and bad headache.
Dang
They
it.
do it only for 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. They stimulate the vagus nerve, and migraines get better, headaches get better, stress levels.
Come on.
This is amazing stuff. This is available today. It's available today. But that stimulator, as I said, I have no data for it to show that your blood pressure will come down with that. I have no data, but who wants to do that data study? Who's going to fund it? You see, a lot of what I'm saying makes a lot of sense, and we know from animal studies, but who's going to do this randomized, double-blind control study? Nobody's going to do it. So are you all going to wait for that? I'm saying no, don't wait for that. Just start working with your vagus nerve now. Don't go out and buy a stimulator. Just get an ice pack. Do that. All right. We now know that the patient is having SVT and you want to increase the parasympathetic.
No, I was so close.
SVT, supraventricular tachycardia. You tell them gentle carotid massage. And that slows the heart rate down. So we know these hacks already in cardiology. I am saying do that for cardiology, fine, but also use it in your day-to-day life for stress management, blood pressure management, all around better health. I'll show you more data on that. So here's another hack right there. Another one is humming.
Yes.
If you just sit 10 minutes and go, that vibration stimulates the vagus nerve. And it goes down. Measure the blood pressures, it goes down. Humming does. Another one, laughter. So the laughing club. Start a laughing club. The more you laugh,
A laughing club.
you're stimulating your vagus nerve. Pulse rate goes down, blood pressure.
Come on, I
So
turned.
who doesn't have early hypertension? Everyone today is having hypertension. Well, then go out and start laughing. Start laughing, start humming, start singing.
Come on.
Gargling. So I told you that goes to the glossopharyngeal muscles. So take some saline or even plain water and just gargle loud. Like you really mean it. Not just a little. You gargle hard. There should be a couple of tears coming out of your eyes. Now you're really stimulating your vagus nerve. And that is going to definitely give you a lot of benefit. See, right there. So there's another hack I just taught you. Now the biggest hack is the breathing that I already mentioned right in the beginning. Where you breathe in, but you breathe out long,
Dang it.
expiration. That
Gotta be
because
quicker than
you
that.
have very large amount of representation in your lungs. Your lungs, they have a huge representation of the vagus nerve. So hack it. It's a big nerve. Because you know there are small nerves that can be hacked as well. There's one that you'll read about because I know you're going to go home and start looking up vagus nerve, blah, 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 blah. But there's one called the tragus nerve.
No.
Which is here, right here on your ear, right here. Right
Tragus
here.
nerve.
This little piece sticking out here, that one. And if you press on it hard enough and massage it, and sometimes you put your finger on the inside and massage it too, in that way, it does trigger your vagus nerve. I think I'll be looking funny if I'm doing that and someone walking by. But there are instruments you can buy that actually stimulate this. But what I'm trying to tell you is that yes, those things do work. They're easier.
No.
3 ways to stimulate your vagus nerve starting today. Start acting it today. So if you really like and enjoy this video, check out this clip because I think you'll find it very helpful. And of course, if you want to see the full video, this is where you go. Now, also, don't forget to check out my website. There's lots of
Really?
videos and
Ran
resources
right
there.
into
You'll
him.
also find how to contact me or have a consultation with me. So please do check out my website. Thank you.
Come on, I was so darn close. Yeah, that's Dr. Pradip Mirandas or something like that, however you say it. Wee. Come on, come on, come on. Ah, what was I supposed to do? Fantastic guy. Jordan Peterson, pain is the path to transformation. React to nothing. She is just blowing up on Sotomisha, huh?
My name is Wendy Suzuki.
Tell us,
I'm
Wendy.
Dean of the College of Arts and Science at New York University and professor of neuroscience. And
Hell
psychology.
yeah. Yeah, you are. Yeah, she is.
Chapter 1. Exploring the neurological effects of exercise.
I have been fascinated with my favorite brain structure called the hippocampus for many, many years. Each of us have two hippocampi, one on the right, one on the left, and it is essential for our ability to form and retain new long-term memories for facts and events. And I became fascinated in this because of the most famous neurological patient of all time. His initials were HM. We now know his name was Henry Molaison. And he suffered as a young child from epilepsy and got this experimental surgery where they knew that if you removed one of his hippocampi, it would improve the epilepsy. It would reduce the epilepsy, I should say. But because his epilepsy was so severe, they decided to remove both hippocampi. And that's when he realized that while his epileptic symptoms were reduced, he was left with no ability to form any new memories of his entire life, or facts, for events for the rest of his life. And that's when we learned
That's not worth it.
Hippocampus was so important for memory. And I was fascinated with this, and I wanted to study the hippocampus. I started in 1998 as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed young assistant professor at New York University, studying the hippocampus and how
Just go.
what exactly does the hippocampus do when it forms these new long-term memories. And I was so excited to be able to do this, but in my excitement, I managed to unbalance myself. I don't know if you experienced this, but I just decided I was only going to work because research professors on the tenure track have this thing we have to go through, getting tenure. It takes 6 years, and you have 6 years to make a big splash in science and discover something really, really amazing. So I decided that
I think I was pretty close.
For 6 years, I was only going to work and put my head down and get all the work done I can, trying to understand how the hippocampus forms new memories.
Oh, okay. Maybe I can do that.
I didn't feel good. I didn't have a lot of social relationships. I was eating too much takeout.
I think I can do that.
I was just feeling so lethargic. And I knew I needed to do something about that.
Okay.
And that is what brought me to the gym, because I didn't know how to get more social relationships, but I wanted to feel better.
I need to go to the gym.
I started eating better. I went to the gym, and a year and a half later, I felt so good. I had this amazing realization. And a year and a half later, I started going to the gym. I lost 25 pounds by that point, and I thought, gosh, my memory seems to be working better. In fact, I was writing a research grant, something that I do a lot. And I was sitting there, and I remember the day that I thought to myself, gee, that research grant writing, that went really well today. I had never had that thought go through my mind in my entire career. And when I thought about it, I thought, gosh, my memory, my hippocampal-dependent memory that I was studying in my own lab, that seemed to be better. I was able to pull together details from all the papers that I was reading. And also my ability to focus. You really need deep focus, which is dependent on the prefrontal cortex right behind your forehead. That was also better too, leading to this better writing session. And that was the first day day.
What am I supposed to do here?
Maybe it was this new level of physical activity that I was experiencing, that I was giving myself, that was causing this really extraordinary change, that my writing was going better. So that was the first moment that I started seriously getting interested in how exercise might be affecting the brain and also helping the hippocampus, again, my favorite brain structure for memory. Because I studied the effects of exercise in the brain, people always want to ask me about the runner's high. What is it? How do you get it? And that's a great jumping off point, although I will be the first one to admit that the runner's high is not available for most of us, including me, because I don't run. I'm a terrible runner, and so I can't run, and therefore I can't get a runner's high.
You can run, just lose another 30 pounds.
Because what it really is this feeling of euphoria that comes with running. The starting point for that is something that I like to call an insider tip from a neuroscientist who studied the effects of exercise on the brain. And here's my insider tip number one, and that is every single time you move your body, including when you're running, you are giving your brain what I like to call a wonderful bubble bath of neurochemicals. Those neurochemicals include dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline, endorphins, and that cocktail of neurochemicals is what is giving the runners their runner's high. We know that endorphins play a really big part of that. But here's the good news. You don't have to be a marathon runner to get this. In fact, we know that even 10 minutes of walking can significantly improve your mood state, decreasing depression and anxiety levels, and improving positive mood states as well. So that's where the runner's high gets us to, and it's one of the most powerful things that you can do for your brain today. Let me dive into that neurochemical bubble bath, because it's really the key to understanding exactly how exercise is affecting our brains. So I mentioned several ingredients in that bubble bath. That includes dopamine and serotonin and noradrenaline and endorphins. And that's really key to the mood boosting effects of exercise. But it also includes what's called growth factors. Several different growth factors get released with movement, and that is going towards the long-term effects of exercise that can actually help grow and strengthen two key brain areas. One is the hippocampus, critical for long-term memory, and the second is the prefrontal cortex, critical for your ability to shift and focus attention. So how do we understand this? Every single time you move your body, you are releasing at least a part of that bubble bath. And that helps us understand how only 10 minutes of walking can improve our mood, decrease depression, decrease anxiety. And as you go up the activity scale to aerobic running, and everything in between, you are getting those mood effects. Why? Because you have higher levels of dopamine and serotonin. But that's just the short-term effects. What about long-term effects? What if you give your brain a bubble bath on a regular basis for a week or a month or several years? That's when those growth factors kick in. And what do the growth factors do? We know that the growth factors go directly to your hippocampus. The hippocampus is an extraordinary structure because it is one of the only human brain areas that can grow brand new brain cells in adulthood. And those growth factors help the hippocampus grow shiny new hippocampal cells. And what does that mean? Your memory is better. So that is what you get with long-term memory. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that the other brain area that benefits in terms of growth and strength is the prefrontal cortex. Now, it's not growing new cells. Some evidence suggests that the outputs of cells in the prefrontal cortex, called the axons of those cells, perform better, work better with more exercise. They say that, for example, Serena Williams has really, really well-insulated axons in her prefrontal cortex because of all of that amazing tennis that she's played for a long time. But those are some of the both immediate and long-term changes that you get with exercise that start with that neurochemical back. People often ask me, what is the brain-body connection? And it is the simple physiological idea that what you do with your body affects your brain. And what you think with your brain also has an effect on the physiology of your body. It works both ways. And so we've talked about moving your body, creating this neurochemical bubble bath that improves your mood and can grow hippocampal brain cells. That's the body to brain connection. What about the other way? One of my favorite forms of exercise that I take and I teach is a form of exercise called Intensati that pairs physical movements from dance and kickbox and martial arts with positive spoken affirmations. It was developed by an amazing fitness instructor named Patricia Moreno. And there you are giving your brain this bubble bath, but at the same time, each movement is paired with a positive thought. For example, when you punch back and forth, we say, I am strong now. And imagine a class where the whole class is different moves with different positive affirmations. I can tell you the first time I took this class, I walked out of that class feeling strong. I felt like Wonder Woman, Supergirl, all rolled up in one. Because what you think and what you state verbally is what you start to believe. And that is why this particular workout is so powerful. It is taking full advantage of that mind-body connection we've all heard about. That's a way to take full advantage of it.
I am
One
blessed.
interesting question is, what is the difference between the brain of somebody that is more sedentary and the brain of somebody that is really active all the time?
I'm fit.
And again,
really strong.
what it is the neurochemical milieu or neurochemical bubble bath that their brain is bathing in. That is affecting their mood, that is affecting
super
their energy
excited.
levels, and ultimately, for the long term, affecting the strength of particular brain areas, particularly the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. But never fear. You might say, oh, well, I'm in the sedentary camp. There's
so
no
excited.
hope for me. Here's why there's hope for everybody. And that is the principle of brain plasticity. Brain plasticity is this idea that the brain has an extraordinary capacity to change or modify its wiring based on the environment that you put the brain in, including the physical environment. Are you walking a lot? Are you running? Are you keeping yourself physically active? Are you learning new things that also results in what I call positive brain plasticity? So using the same principles we've been talking about, what is the difference between a sedentary brain and an active, the brain of a runner? Well, the runner's brain has higher levels of dopamine and serotonin, kind of boosted every single time that runner goes for a run. It elevates general mood state. Studies that I did in my lab showed that people that went to 3 months of spin class had overall higher mood states than people for 3 months who played video Scrabble. And so your overall mood state is better. Those people in the exercise group also have much more growth factors going through their brain. I like to think of it like a watering can of growth factors all up and down your hippocampi. What's happening? They're growing, popping shiny new hippocampal cells. Their memory is working better, and they're getting bigger, fatter axons of their prefrontal cells, making their prefrontal cortex.
The only
work
time I
better.
want to be
But
fatter.
again, everything is fluid with brain
Ah,
plasticity.
come
Even if you've
on.
been sedentary all your life, you can start moving towards that, what I like to call bigger, fatter, fluffier, and happier brain with just 10 minutes of walking is what kind of can launch that change in your brain. People always tell me, you are so good at motivating people to exercise, but then after I listen to your talk, I just go back home and sit on the couch and watch Netflix. What should I do? Motivation is a key. And here's what I found in my own life as I transitioned from that unbalanced, unhappy, pre-tenure faculty member that I was to a much more active faculty member, I started small. And I started with things that I already enjoyed, which for me was dance. I remember when I joined the gym, I decided I wanted to be more active, and like many people, I joined the gym, and I went to a hip-hop dance class. Okay, I love dance. I'm a terrible hip-hop dancer, and I remember coming out of that class saying, oh God, that was embarrassing, but still fun. I enjoyed doing it. So my tip, my motivational tip for everybody is start small and start with things you already know you like. If you hate running, don't run. You don't have to run. Or start practically. One of the things I did over the pandemic is I turned my weekly cleaning session into an exercise session. Have you ever seen that movie, Mrs. Doubtfire? Have you ever tried to do that choreography that Robin Williams did with the vacuum cleaner? It is hard. It is a great aerobic workout. And if you bring that play and that joy to even scrubbing the bathtub, it makes it more fun. It makes it more enjoyable and more aerobic. The other question everybody asks me at the end of my talks is, that sounds great. I want a neurochemical bubble bath, but I really want you to tell me what's the least amount of movement that I have to do to get that neurochemical bubble bath. And here is the answer based on actual scientific studies. And that is, we know that as little as 10 minutes of walking can improve your mood. That is getting that bubble bath with the dopamine, serotonin, endorphins going. Anybody can do that. You don't even have to change into your spandex. Go for a walk. You don't have to change your shoes. Everybody can do that wherever you live in this world, in this country. And so that is the minimum. But I love this. Start small. Everybody can walk. And then just add on. Can you walk?
Not everybody can walk.
A little bit farther away. Can you do another round of shopping with the big cart in Costco? That's a great way to get exercise as well. Make it fun, practical. Oh, include your friends as well. I went to hip-hop. I didn't go to hip-hop dance class. I went to dance class and found friends that I went to dance class with that made it even more enjoyable, even more motivating. I certainly check goals, and at the beginning of the year, everybody wants to have their, beginning of the year goals. I think those are, they tend to be bound for failure. And I, instead of at the beginning of the year, put all this pressure, I like to set smaller goals for myself, doable goals that make me excited to try them. That is the key. And sometimes it takes a little bit of thought, maybe
I'm excited to go skating.
Those scary classes where you have to lift that tire up and push it across the room, but maybe
scary.
it
That's
is
fun.
a walk
According to me.
on the shore, a walk to the gym, a walk around the museum with friends. Be creative about the ways that you can get gardening. That's another thing. People think those things don't count. They all count. Moving your body, especially outside, all of that counts. Be more broad in your definition of bringing more movement into your life. Everybody wonders about what is the best time to work out. And my first answer to that question is always, anytime you can fit it in, fit it in. Don't let I'm doing it at this time and it's not the best time, so I'm not going to do it. Let go of that. Anytime you can fit it in from morning till night, fit it in. But if you want to get a little bit more technical about it, here's what I've learned from my studies of the effects of exercise on the brain. And that is that, as I said, every time you move your body, you're giving your brain this bubble bath. What exactly do you get? You get better mood. You get better performance on tasks that require your prefrontal cortex, which basically means you can shift and focus your attention better. And something I haven't mentioned yet, your reaction time, your response time is better. And so I think about that. I'm reading all the papers, done the research on my own that confirmed all of those immediate things. And so here's what I came up with. And also people ask, well, when do you work out, Wendy? I work out first thing in the morning for several reasons. One is that it's harder to have other things get in the way of that. So it's interrupted less. And two, I love the idea that after I work out first thing in the morning, I have this brain that is happier, that can focus attention better, and that responds quicker. That's the brain that I want to bring into my workplace first thing in the morning. And I did notice, so full disclosure, when I did this experiment, I was totally enjoying my after work workout sessions. So I would reward myself, as many people do, go to the gym after work, and I loved it. But as I got into the research and I switched my research from memory to the effects of exercise of the brain, I thought, let me give this a try. And I'm not going to lie, it was painful to switch to first thing in the morning exercise. I was sleepy. I couldn't follow the classes because I was half asleep in class. And it was 2 weeks of pain before I got used to the new schedule. And then once I got used to it, I found that I could focus attention even longer in my day. For my whole life, I've always worked best first thing in the morning. I'm a morning person. And so that morning good work time got longer when I started and got used to that early morning workout. And you might say, well, I'm not a morning person, Wendy. I totally get it. Try it. I love to advocate for personal experimentation. You know the science now that you're giving your brain a blah, blah, blah. It's going to make your focus work better. It's going to improve your mood. What are you going to apply in your life for how your life works? That's how I applied it to mine. And I like to work out in the morning. You apply it to yours. And let me know how it works out. So many of us use caffeine. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I'm a regular tea drinker. And I think
That's what I want right now, some coffee.
To switch your exercise regimen goes beyond just the use of coffee or trying to use it, to get yourself up. It's really shifting your circadian clock, getting your body used to movement first thing in the morning. That's what was so painful for those first 2 weeks that I tried it. So it really is being disciplined. If you want to wake up earlier, you need to go to sleep earlier. And that is the hard part. There's always one more Netflix episode to watch.
Yes,
and
there
it
is.
won't do any harm, but it will. And so it's shifting that circadian clock and really sticking to it. I think, you can use caffeine as a crutch, but I think the sleep change and the the timing change in your life and kind of getting a handle on that, and what works well for you is the most important formula. There's a lot of data on the idea that late night workouts, they could benefit your body and you're still getting that neurochemical bubble bath, but endorphins are not the best thing to help you fall asleep. And so, you need time to cool down before you go to sleep. I experienced this myself. I never am able to go to sleep after I give an evening lecture. The later, the worse it is for me. I need several hours to come back down. And even though I usually go to bed at around 9:30, if I'm giving a talk at 6 or 7, it takes me several hours to calm down and get into that respite state. And that is just, energy levels. That is your fight or flight response coming online, increasing that adrenaline in your body and even that cortisol. And you can't go to sleep with that level of that kind of neurochemical and hormone in your system. It simply takes more time to go to sleep. This is another situation where that personal experiment on yourself is notable. Journal about what works for you. Every single time I give a talk at 6 or 7, I need several hours. I'm not going to get a good sleep. So do not schedule an early morning, big important thing to do because I'm going to need to sleep in the next day. Find that for you. Journaling is great to notice those trends in yourself, but self-experimentation, knowing some of the science behind it, can be a very powerful tool to shift your life in the way that you want it to go. Here are my 2 motivations, and I'm a nerd, so I have neuroscience motivations. Motivation number 1, I love this idea of giving my brain a bubble bath of great neurochemicals first thing in the morning. I know it's benefiting my brain. And I love the idea that part of those neurochemicals are growth factors, because my favorite brain structure, the hippocampus, I know is getting bigger and fatter and fluffier every single time that I work out. Why is that important? It's because the hippocampus is one of the most sensitive brain areas to aging. And it starts to lose its connections. And I am motivated by making my own hippocampus as big and fat and fluffy as I can, so that even if I get dementia, which I have in my family heredity, in my family history, that it's going to take longer for that dementia to have an effect on my memory. Why? Because I made it big and fat and fluffy with my morning workouts. There are so many different brain benefits for exercise, almost too many to talk about. We've talked about the benefit long-term for the hippocampus. It grows new hippocampal brain cells, making it big and fat and fluffy. We've talked about the beneficial effects of exercise on the prefrontal cortex, another brain area very susceptible to aging, also increasing, probably not brain cells, but the support cells, the glia cells, seem to be benefited by exercise, and certainly the functions of the prefrontal cortex benefit from exercise. Mood is beneficial. Motivation is, I can't point to the specific brain area that is important for motivation, but that positive habit that you create as you do regular exercise is a huge benefit for aging. Just getting that positive habit into your life. Those are my top, how many did I name? 4. Hippocampal function, memory, prefrontal cortex, focus, mood, and motivation. All things that are benefiting from regular exercise. One of the most interesting things in my research, I started with looking at the effects of physical activity on the brain, and I found, decreased depression, decreased anxiety levels, increased focus. And then I and people, as students in my lab, got interested in meditation as well. And so we did a very practical experiment. What would happen to people if they did just 13 minutes of a guided meditation every day for 3 months, compared to just listening to a podcast for the same amount of time for 3 months? We found same kind of benefits: better mood, decreased anxiety, depression levels, and better focus. So what's happening there? How could the stillness have the same effect as moving your body and getting those neurochemicals going with movement? And the answer is, we're still not sure, but those are the benefits. You can reap some of the same benefits from physical activity by bringing more meditation into your life. And today it's easier than it ever was to bring that into your life with all the award-winning apps out there. You can even go to meditation classes and group meditation classes, online meditation classes. I'll tell you, I've tried it all. I tried guided meditation. I've tried going to classes. I ended up finding a form of meditation that works beautifully for me, which is a tea meditation, which is meditation over the brewing and drinking of tea that I do every morning in silence. And the ritual of brewing and drinking tea, it has steps that you have to do in a certain order. Somehow that keeps me in the flow of the meditation. There's always something that comes next. That's again part of my self-experimentation. Sorry, Deepak and Oprah, I tried to follow your guided meditation, and you worked for a little while, but what worked best for me is this wonderful tea meditation. So try it, try that, try the apps, see how you can find a moment, and notice the benefits of silence on your mood and your focus. If I was appointed Surgeon General tomorrow, here would be my message to everybody in the United States, everybody in the world, actually. And that is, physical activity is the most transformative thing that you can do, not only for your body, but for your brain as well. That is the key message. And you don't have to become a marathon runner, a triathlete to get these benefits, because even 10 minutes of walking will start to give you immediate benefits in terms of decreasing anxiety levels, decreasing depression levels. That's what everybody needs right now. And so my platform would be move more is the simple message that I would give for everybody, because it'll benefit your body and your brain.
Chapter 2, the formula behind exercise-driven brain optimization.
The most common question that people ask is, just tell me exactly what I need to do to get all those great brain benefits you talk about. And in fact, they put their finger on exactly why I wanted to start to explore this. I was interested in that exercise prescription. What is the best form of exercise for me today to maximize my cognitive function? And perhaps even more importantly, what is that long-term exercise prescription that's going to make my brain, keep my brain as big and fat and fluffy and healthy as it can be as I age? Well, I'm sorry to say that I don't know the full answer to that question, but here's the take-homes that I can tell you today, science-based take-homes that I can tell you today. Take-home number one is something we've already said, which is the easiest way to start to reap the benefits of exercise in the brain is that 10-minute walk. Even 10 minutes of just walking can decrease your anxiety and depression levels. Again, something that everybody needs. That's why when you can't handle it anymore, you decide to go out for a walk. That's why you feel better. It is that neurochemical bubble bath working. But what about those long-term effects? So we know that if you do correlational studies, and this is one of my favorite studies that was done in Sweden on a group of Swedish women. It was a 45-year follow-up study. So in the 1960s, they found a group of women in their 40s, and they characterized them as low-fit, mid-fit, or high-fit. And then 44 years later, they came back, and they can do whatever they wanted during those 44 years. 44 years later, the researchers came back, and they asked what happened to those women that were low-fit, mid-fit, or high-fit. And what they found was relative to the low-fit women, the high-fit women staved off dementia for 9 extra years. Wow. 9 extra years. That's amazing. Is that the formula?
9 extra years.
The formula, because they were high fit and they didn't really measure the exercise. But it suggested that exercise was helping their brain stave off dementia. And we have a clear idea why that might be. As we've been talking about, those growth factors that happen with regular exercise make your brain big and fat and fluffy, and would be able to stave off, theoretically, dementia. But that's just a correlation, and correlation does not
equal causation.
So maybe it is the high-fit women had better heart function. Maybe that was the key to staving off dementia. So maybe something about the circulatory system. Maybe that helped them sleep better. Maybe it was the sleep and not the exercise. There's lots of open questions there. But here's what we do know, that you can start to reap significant brain benefits, not over 44 years, but over 3 months. And these are studies that I've done in my lab. We showed that low-fit people that exercise for just 2 to 3 times a week, 45-minute cardio workout. They happen to be doing spinning, but anything that gets your heart rate up for 45 minutes would be equivalent. They got significant improvements in their baseline mood state. Their prefrontal function got significantly better at baseline, not just right after exercise. And their hippocampal function got significantly better. So even if you are sedentary right now, that is doable. 2 to 3 times a week of 45 minutes is what my studies have shown can significantly improve your brain function. But then what about the next group of people? I'm already working out. What am I doing enough? What is enough? And for that group of people, we looked at the effects of exercise as much as you like for 3 months, more than you like, more than you're exercising now for the next 3 months. In a group of mid-fit people that were already exercising about 2 times a week, good cardio workouts for at least 45 minutes. And what we found was every additional drop of sweat counted. That is, the more you exercise above that, the more brain benefits you got in terms of better mood, better prefrontal function, and better hippocampal function. So not quite the exact formula, but we're starting to work our way towards what we need to do to really reap those brain benefits of exercise. We were really interested in asking, well, what changed in these people's brains that were already working out? And I think that first, this is a great moment to acknowledge that physical activity is doing so much. It's changing, it's improving your cardiovascular function, it's improving the blood vessel kind of level, the physiology of your blood vessels. It is improving your oxygenation in your brain as well as this neurochemical bubble bath. So what I think is happening in that study that I summarized for you by saying every drop of sweat helps for your brain is that I think that those people are benefiting from even higher levels of baseline dopamine and serotonin. So you are just kind of keeping those dopamine, serotonin levels higher for a longer period of time, better baseline mood. I think you are growing more hippocampal brain cells and strengthening the prefrontal cortex more than somebody that is sedentary, for example. And you're kind of on a roll, you're leveraging those changes and you're getting even more in. It's all the same formula, but you get more. But every drop of sweat counts. And to ask the question that people might be thinking, can I exercise too much? And of course, everything comes on a U-shaped curve. So is too much chocolate bad for you? Yes. Yes, it is. Too much exercise bad for your body and your brain. Absolutely. We can understand that in terms of stress on your body. But too much of anything is bad for your brain. Probably not most of us can get to that high enough exercise level. Maybe it's those kind of obsessive athletes or Olympic level athletes that really push their bodies to the limits. That might start to be negative for your brain. But most of us, and this is the good news, most of us have a really big window over which to improve our brain function through our physical activity. My greatest dream is still around this idea of optimizing exercise prescription. But it goes beyond exercise. I told you that exercise and meditation have similar effects on the brain. It's really all those brain beneficial activities. And I would love to develop ways to start to identify those patterns of activities that are most beneficial for different populations. I happen to be Dean of the College of Arts and Science. I have 9,000 students. What are the most beneficial things for college students that start off, happy-go-lucky in September, but then it gets more and more and more stressful as the finals come up? What are those things that they can be doing, to maximize their brain learning potential in the fall and decrease their stress, anxiety, decrease procrastination as the finals come up? And what about when you get out in the workforce? What can you do over different parts of your career when you're first starting out, when you're mid-career, when you're post-career? What are those brain beneficial activities that you should be bringing into your life? And of course, the ultimate question, which is one that fascinated me from the very beginning. What is that lifelong story, that trajectory of what we should be doing for our gender, for our age, for our ethnic group, for our genetic background that will make the aging process most beautiful for us? That is the question. If I could answer that question, I would be golden. I just gave you, the ultimate. These are all the questions that I'd like to answer. And I've learned in my research, you have to take advantage of the situation that you're in right now. What tools do you have? Do I have lots of old people to test right now? No, I don't. What I do have are lots of students that would benefit from all of this. So you could imagine that my question number one surrounds university students, and obviously that is my number one goal. As dean, I am very much responsible for their academic trajectory, but really I consider myself responsible for their brain health. And so all of these ideas are kind of funneling into that.
Chapter 3. Are the neurological benefits of exercise overstated?
Here's that most skeptical question that I get about all the exercise work. And that is, well, Wendy, there's all these correlations. They're correlations that are very, optimistic. But when you go to the randomized control studies, a lot of those results are more subtle. They're not, that breathtaking. And maybe there are other things that are involved, like sleep, like cardiovascular function, like respiratory, oxygen levels, that don't have nearly as much to do with exercise as you're saying. What do you say to that? And I say, you're absolutely right. The correlations are so optimistic, but they point us in a particular direction. And while I agree that some of the human experiments have more subtle effects, what I lean on in my continued optimism and my hypotheses about the transformative effects of exercise on the brain are the studies in animals that have shown true growth of hippocampal brain cells with exercise. They are so convincing because they show exactly how much the hippocampus grows with increased exercise, the longevity that comes with hippocampal function. In fact, my own advisor as an undergraduate looked at the effects of enriched environments on brain function. She created this enriched environment kind of scenario, which is kind of like, think of it like a Disney World of rat cages for rats. So you let rats live in Disney World with other rats and lots of toys to play with and different toys, and you compare their brains to rats that live in kind of a shoebox with maybe one other rat and toys. Is there a difference? This was the woman who defined brain plasticity, who kind of discovered adult brain plasticity. Her name was Professor Mary Diamond at UC Berkeley, and she showed that rats raised in those enriched environments, the actual outer covering of the brain got significantly thicker. And what experiment showed the biggest anatomical brain change with that enriched environment that we later know was coming from all the running around the rats were doing in Disney World? It was pregnant mother rats being raised in these enriched environments, and then they looked at the babies that were born. Those babies whose mothers ran around the enriched environment, that Disney World of rat cages, their brains were the biggest compared to the offspring of mother rats that were raised in the shoebox. Those are the experiments that not only keep me optimistic, but create a real model about what is going on with the brain with exercise, and how this could be a true tool to help us age beautifully into our golden years. Let me be clear, I welcome all this skepticism. It makes our experiments better. But what I would say is that we can all learn from each other and together kind of devise that perfect experiment. So we know how much the cardiovascular changes are contributing to the brain functions that I'm interested in. We know how much sleep patterns are contributing to better cognitive functions that I'm measuring as well. All of this is fodder for what we're all trying to do, which is really trying to understand what goes on here. And so, yes, we still have a ways to go, but all of these factors are important when one is discussing something as complicated as physical activity. You might ask us, is there mutual skepticism around? And the answer is yes, because so many of the phenomenon that we as scientists study are complicated, like exercise. And I don't have time to learn all about cardiology. It took me all this time to learn enough about neuroscience. And we've become so specialized that we can pick out, ooh, you should have been looking at that there. You're a cardiologist, so you don't know about that, but let me raise my hand and tell you about that. That is part of what comes out as skepticism, and you know, you should have known about all the cardiology studies that I did or my colleagues did. But again, it all kind of funnels into trying to really make sure that we've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's in these very complicated phenomenon that we're all trying to understand. What initially comes off as skepticism, criticism, is absolutely kind of doable if one can come together across fields. That is one of the most difficult things to do, both within an institution or across institutions. But it is kind of the direction that science is taking, multidisciplinary, really trying to see all perspectives. Neuroscience as a field is one of the most multidisciplinary there is. It goes from molecular biology to behavior, and we all try and understand, you know, aspects of it. But cardiology doesn't come in there. Bone science doesn't come in there. But all of them may have insight to doing that. I mean, it comes down to we get. It's too easy to get caught up in the neuroscience and just looking at it from that perspective, even if it has multifaceted elements to the neuroscience perspective. But that is the future of science, is completely integrated for the whole body and for science in general. And it's a hard question to ask, but that's one that many institutions, including my own, NYU, is trying to address.
Chapter 4, exploring the neurological effects of anxiety.
It's great to start with a simple definition of anxiety. So, anxiety is the feeling of fear or worry, typically associated with situations of uncertainty. So it makes perfect sense why our global levels of anxiety have gone up over the last 2.5, 3 years with the global pandemic. Nobody knew how to deal with this, a brand new, very, very scary, uncertain situation, but kind of reel it back into everyday life. Obviously, it pops up with lots of uncertain situations that many of us deal with every single day. But it's important to realize that this human emotion, anxiety, this normal human emotion, anxiety, exists on a really, really, really wide spectrum. It goes from everyday anxiety that can be from, you know, mildly annoying to kind of really, really annoying and really a draining on you. But then it goes all the way up to clinical levels of anxiety. That becomes a different beast. That becomes something that you must go see a medical professional to deal with. All of the techniques and the neuroscience that I talk about in my book, Good Anxiety, were really written for everyday anxiety. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody with clinical anxiety can't use those techniques. It's just not the only thing that one should use if you have clinical anxiety. You should absolutely go see a medical professional. But I just wanted to make that clarification because there is a difference, and this, all of the approaches that I'm talking about are really for those of us, just everybody that has everyday anxiety. one thing that trips essentially all of us up is something called the negativity bias, which says that we are more prone to see the negative sides of things than the positive side. Why? It's a safety mechanism. You want to be extra careful if you are going to be, in a dangerous situation, rather than say, "Oh, I'm going to be just fine." And so it is a protective, evolutionary safety mechanism. But what happens is, if you're tired, if you're stressed, if lots of problems are coming up, you will tend to see the world in, oh my God, they hate me. This person hates me. I'm never going to get the job. I'm never going to lose the weight that I want to lose. All these things come up as part of that negativity bias, and that becomes part of the what I like to call the big kind of stone of anxiety that you wear around your neck every day, kind of dragging along with you. Part of that is the negativity bias. There are many, many different brain areas that get activated with anxiety, but simplistically, there's one that we know that is particularly activated in the similar emotions of fear and anxiety, and that is a brain structure called the amygdala. The amygdala is one that is kind of automatically activated when there is a possibility. You hear that, that bump in the night that launches your anxiety, and the brain area that could help that calming that might happen in that situation is the prefrontal cortex, the area that's involved in executive function and helps you kind of order your day. But unfortunately, in situations of high stress, high anxiety, what happens is not only is your amygdala activated, but your prefrontal cortex gets shut down too. So that makes the situation even worse. And so that's part of what can happen when one can kind of devolve into a really serious situation or a case of anxiety. Brain plasticity is the brain's extraordinary ability to change and rewire itself in response to the external environment. And probably the most common form of brain plasticity that you've done today, I've done today already, is new learning. Every time you learn something new, there's a change in my favorite brain structure, the hippocampus, that allows for the laying down of that new memory. This is something we're doing all the time, every day, but I, in my work, try to use and explore the boundaries of brain plasticity to address some very challenging issues that have come into the society, particularly our high anxiety. I use brain plasticity as the core of my entire research program. Memory, I started out studying memory as a form of brain plasticity. The effects of exercise on the brain. Exercise is one of the best examples of positive brain plasticity. But when I started getting into anxiety, I realized how critical brain plasticity was to address anxiety. Because one of the first things that I wanted to do was flip the script on our whole mindset around anxiety. You hear the word anxiety, you think, oh God, this thing I want to kick out the door. It's a disease, I have it, I don't know how to get rid of it. But here's the flip that is dependent on our ability to have brain plasticity, our ability to learn, basically. And that is that anxiety is a normal human emotion. We all have it, okay? So you're never going to get rid of it. And we all have it because it is protective. It evolved to protect us. And so my whole book, Good Anxiety, is teaching us to look at anxiety in a different way, to really flip the script on anxiety and use neuroscience and tools from psychology as well to learn how to take advantage of anxiety and learn about the gifts or superpowers that come from it. When I started writing this book, Good Anxiety, it was because I noticed in my students and my friends, my colleagues, myself, higher levels of anxiety. And this was well before the pandemic started. And so I started to write about what I knew about neuroscience and psychology that could really help us understand and address anxiety. But in the middle of writing the book, there was something that happened that completely changed the book for me and changed my attitude towards anxiety. And it included anxiety. It was really a situation of grief and something that all of us unfortunately have to go through. In the period of 3 months, I lost my father and my younger brother, both of heart attacks. And I can tell you it was one of the most difficult times I've ever gone through in my whole life. And so it was impossible to write my book about anxiety. I put it on the side. I just had to deal with all these feelings of grief, of sadness, of anxiety. Am I going to feel better? And it was rough. And it took a while to come back. I used all the tools that I knew. I exercised, got myself into exercise. I reached out to my friends. I did my regular meditation. And I remember one day I was doing a video exercise, which is what I do every day. And I hadn't seen this video before, but the trainer that day said something that helped me so much. And that was, in the context of physical activity, she said, with great pain comes great wisdom. And I thought, oh my God, that is what's coming from the great pain of the grief, including anxiety mixed in, that I'd gone through. What is the great wisdom? The great wisdom was that underlined that it was so painful and so acute because there was so much love behind that emotion. And I thought, that is the thought and the intention that I need to help me get out, to finish my emergence from this grief. That what's behind that was so much love. And that, it's the flip side of love, which is this great grief if your loved ones pass away. And that was so helpful for me at this moment. And then I realized it was transforming the way that I was thinking about this anxiety book. Because if that terrible emotion, negative, horrible emotion of grief, this silver lining of wisdom, what about anxiety? Could anxiety be helpful? And was my book just going to be about techniques to reduce the big bad anxiety, or was I going to approach it as something that could be beneficial? That's when the book changed for me. It became a quest that I needed something to put my mind on, and I dove into trying to find gifts or superpowers or beneficial elements from all the different kinds of anxiety that I read about, that I experienced, that I was writing about already. And that's how I came up with the 6 gifts or superpowers of anxiety. They would not have come to light if I didn't go through this experience in the middle of writing this book. But it shifted the way that I thought about anxiety. It shifted the way that I was able to recover from this. And it shifted my thoughts about human emotion in general. In Good Anxiety, I talk about 6 superpowers, but let me mention my top 3. The first one is the superpower of productivity. Did you realize that your own form of anxiety could be a superpower of productivity? And it works like this. It focuses on one of the most common forms of anxiety that we all suffer from. I certainly suffer from it myself, which is that what if list. What if you didn't do that? Or what if you did that and you didn't do it right? And for me, it hits me right before I'm going to go to sleep, and it disrupts my sleep. So what do? That is your anxiety welling up. And so here is the trick, that anxiety is focused on things that are important to you in life. That is the key. You don't get up in the middle of the night worrying, oh my God, I didn't finish that last episode of the next Netflix series I'm watching, right? It's about the project you're working on, about and a really important relationship. So these are things that are important to you. And so the way to transform it is to turn that what if list into a to-do list. Take each one of them and do an action, put an action on each one of them, whether it's asking a friend for help, doing something, Googling something, and go tick through them one by one. How does that help? It helps because evolutionarily, anxiety evolved to have us put an action on it. Typically, 2.5 million years ago, it was either you fight the danger that was causing anxiety or you run away from it. That is the fight or flight response. And so you can help alleviate that form of anxiety by putting an action on it, even if it is, I'm going to ask a friend. I'm going to spend 30 minutes of detailed work on this thing that I'm worried about. That is how you get productivity from your anxiety. And that is superpower number 1. Superpower number 2 is the superpower of flow. And this one I'm very proud of because all the data out there says that anxiety can eliminate flow. So flow is a psychological state. I like to think about it as it's those moments that you're doing something that you're really good at and it's really exceptional. Time stands still. It's like you're moving in slow motion and everything is just going beautifully. And I always think, I'm a student of the cello, I always think of Yo-Yo Ma, who's playing the Bach solo cello suites. Not every single time, but that one time at Carnegie Hall, the sound was just so beautiful. He was in flow. And so I knew I wanted to talk about flow, but I couldn't just say, well, sorry, if you have anxiety, no flow for you. And so I was experiencing writer's block. I didn't know how I was going to bring this concept in without being very just depressing about it. And so to alleviate my writer's block, I went to a yoga class. So I go to yoga class, I'm doing my up dog, my down dog, I flip the dog, I was doing really well. And then I get to the end of class and I go into my favorite pose, which is, of course, Shavasana. I'm laying down in Shavasana and it hits me that I am flowing in Shavasana, that I am laying on the ground still better than anybody has laid down on the ground still. At least I feel like I'm flowing in Shavasana. Okay, maybe it's not classic flow. Maybe it's micro flow. And so I came up with this concept of micro flow. And then I realized that my micro flowing Shavasana was even sweeter. Why? Because I had writer's block. I had that anxiety about what was going to happen. I didn't know. That uncertainty was coming in. And so that I realized that your own anxiety can make your own moments of microflow, which we all have during the day, even if you don't realize you do, make them even sweeter. And so it's kind of a realization that your own anxieties helping those moments of microflow be even, as I like to say, flowier. That's superpower number 2. Superpower number 3 that comes from your own anxiety is my favorite of all the superpowers. And it comes from my own evaluation of my own anxiety, my own history of anxiety. And I was a very, very shy young girl growing up. So, hiding behind my mom's legs. I was always interested in class, but always had this fear of asking questions in class. Why? For the same reason everybody's afraid. You're afraid you're going to say something stupid and you're going to look like an idiot in front of the whole class. So I had that fear all through my very, very long educational process. But I was interested in teaching and in academia. So one day I find myself at the front of the classroom. And here's what I realized. I didn't realize it then, but I realized it later. That lifelong anxiety of shyness and being afraid to ask in class gave me a superpower of teaching in that classroom because I knew instinctually that there were maybe 10 times as many people that had questions that didn't have the bravery to lift their hand up, but they were just having silent questions in their brain. So I always came early, stayed late, made sure that I had a moment of private time to answer questions for everybody. And so that became my superpower, but here's how it works for everybody. Think about that anxiety that is most familiar to you, your most common form of anxiety. You know what it feels like, you know what it looks like. All you have to do is turn that anxiety to the outside and notice when others might be suffering from that same form of anxiety. And here's your superpower. All you have to do is give a kind word, a simple helping hand in that situation. That becomes your own superpower of anxiety that's based on your own form of anxiety. And I love this superpower because I can't think of anything that we need more in the world today than higher levels of empathy. Cognitive flexibility is the idea that we are able to look at and approach situations in lots of different ways. We are also habit-forming animals, and sometimes without even knowing it, you are approaching the same situation, the one situation, the same way that you approached it when you were, 6 years old. Cognitive flexibility says that if there's a realization, there are other ways to approach it. You have the ability to do just that. An important concept that people often want to build up more in themselves is this idea of resilience. Can I withstand difficult situations and come out stronger or just as good as before that situation happened? It is such an important skill to build up. And one of my favorite experiments to address this was an experiment done in animal model systems. And they compared two maybe very familiar sounding situations. They raised young animals, these were young rats, in situations where they never had a care in the world. One set of rats, no stress, all the food, all the care, no problems at all the water, great place to live for all of their life. Another group of rats, young rats, were exposed to mild difficulty all through their growing up. Some, not terrible, stresses, but mild stresses regularly. And then, at some point in time when they became just young adults, these rats were exposed to a very difficult situation. They had to swim in water, and they had to swim for a long time to really get through it. What happened? Well, those rats that grew up with no stress at all, they had very, very difficult time. Their adrenaline levels, their stress hormones really spiked up. They had a long time to recover. But those other rats that had intermittent, mild stress, they came out of it like, oh, that's fine. Give me a little stress. I'm just fine. And so you think about this in your own life. Part of the learning, part of that silver lining that comes from even the most difficult situations is the psychological knowledge that you could come out of it, that you got through it, that your body got through it, and maybe they'll come up again. Well, you know that you can come through it. That is the core of how one can kind of build up more resilience in one's own life. It's absolutely clear that there's a wide range of personality types, some that are less prone to anxiety, some that might be more prone to anxiety. Again, understanding that we all have a certain level of anxiety. It is a normal human emotion. And so I come back to this idea of brain plasticity, that we are all capable of learning. Now, if I take opera lessons, will I become Maria Callas? No, I will not. But will I improve my vocal range better than I am today? Yes, I will. And I apply that to resilience and dealing with anxiety at the same time. There are systematic ways that you can approach it, learn how you approach it best, get help from the outside, and systematic, intentional attempts to build up your positive coping mechanisms will benefit you in the long run. There's always going to be a tug of war, a push and pull between your resilience, your negativity bias, your anxiety levels, your happiness levels, and it's all at play because all of that is part of our normal kaleidoscope of human emotions. And again, something that is comforting to me, hopefully it'll be comforting to you, is that all of these more difficult or uncomfortable emotions, anxiety, sadness, worry, all of them are normal, and they're there, again, they are there to protect us. They're there to warn us about different things, and if I was happy all the time, then it wouldn't be happy anymore. It would be just normal. Those difficult emotions lift up the what we call happy right now, but they are also there for warning. If I didn't get scared for certain situations, I would just walk in with, eyes wide open to a really, really dangerous situation. They're there to protect us, and that really gives me comfort. And now that doesn't necessarily help somebody that has really, high levels of responsiveness to sadness or worry or fear. And that's where little by little you can build up, you can learn to respond to it, build up your positive coping mechanisms to help and counteract those situations of sadness or anxiety. I talk about in my book over 40 different tools to decrease anxiety that everybody can use today. They're simple, they're not going to cost you thousands of dollars. They're things that you can try in your everyday life. They're very powerful. It's absolutely normal that your level of resilience might go up and then slide back and go up again and slide back. It all depends on the level of stress that you're dealing with, and sometimes you really can kick it in the butt, and other times you need time to recover. That is absolutely normal. But again, all of that is building up your overall resilience. If it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I love that saying. I think it's absolutely true for your resilience. It's not about whether you have it or not. It's just about recovering from it. You're gonna get stronger and stronger. Your resilience is getting stronger and stronger as you deal with all of the things in your life. That's how I think about it. One of the things that everybody does, including myself, when dealing with anxiety, is everybody has coping mechanisms. You have positive ones and negative ones, and how do I define positive versus negative? Well, kind of beneficial is positive, and less beneficial, maybe in the moment, but less overall beneficial are those negative coping mechanisms. What are they? Alcohol, drugs, those kinds of smoking, those kinds of things that could give you immediate relief, perhaps from your anxiety, but not good for the long term. Positive coping mechanisms I talk about in the book include things like we've already talked about the positive effects of exercise on anxiety, on meditation, but one that is so powerful is this idea of having an activist mindset. What is that? An activist mindset is one that is flexible, that can look at a situation and see lots of different possibilities. Everything from that negativity bias that says, oh my God, this is going to be terrible, all the way to, oh, actually, maybe this is going to teach me something really interesting, really new. Now, this is a really important part of my book, this idea of an activist mindset, and I think it was emphasized because of this situation.
I like this lady, but I can't listen to her anymore.
Good anxiety.
Ann Cooper Hewitt, heiress to one of the largest fortunes in the United States, was admitted to a San Francisco hospital for an emergency appendectomy. She later learned the surgeons not only had removed her appendix, but also a length of her fallopian tubes, rendering her incapable of ever becoming pregnant. The story of the sterilized heiress hit the papers just after the new year in 1936, when Anne filed a $500,000 damage claim against the surgeons and her own mother for sterilizing her without her knowledge or consent. Anne's mother denied any wrongdoing. She'd done what she'd done for society's sake, she insisted, because her daughter was feeble-minded. It was the sort of bizarre high society scandal that would have captured the national imagination under any circumstances. But that one word, feeble-minded, struck a familiar chord for Americans and linked Anne's plight to a decades-old campaign to control human reproduction, known as eugenics.
Eugenics.
What is the bearing of the laws of heredity upon human affairs? Eugenics provides the answer.
Eugenics was proposed as the scientific solution for social problems. It was a combination of hope and aspiration on one side, and on the other side, it was about fear, in some cases about hate.
They are identified terms, categorized, feeble-minded, imbecile, idiot.
It would have been better by far if they had never been born.
People tend to think that eugenics was a doctrine that originated with the Nazis, that it was grounded in wild claims that were far outside the scientific mainstream. Both those impressions are fundamentally not true.
It was almost a mania that sort of swept through the country, and there was that kind of naive, optimistic vision of eugenics, like, hey, let's all get together and make better people.
The eugenics movement was about having healthy children, about having a stronger society. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to look at the underbelly of what was implemented in the name of eugenics to see what was so problematic about it.
At Liberty Mutual, we believe progress happens when people feel secure. That's why we exist to help people embrace today and pursue tomorrow.
Ha!
Mutual Insurance is a proud sponsor of American Experience.
Eugenics. Damn it.
In the fall of 1902, an American biologist named Charles Benedict Davenport arrived in London on a sort of pilgrimage. He was 36, Harvard educated, and like many biologists of his generation, absorbed with the study of evolution. He'd been traveling in Europe with his wife, collecting seashells for research on species variation. But this was to be the highlight of the trip. A meeting with the world-renowned gentleman scientist, Sir Francis Galton. A pioneering statistician, Galton had lived his 80 years by a single motto: whenever you can, count. His obsession with measurements and patterns had led him to create the world's first weather maps, establish fingerprinting as a means of identification, and parameters for the perfect cup of tea. Charles Davenport had come to discuss another method, Galton's work on heredity.
Francis Galton was a great quantifier. He liked to quantify height, hair color, what is the chest size of an average man, what is the thigh length of an average man.
things like intelligence.
Galton had a theory that talent, as he called it, what we would call intelligence, seemed to run in families. And so it quickly occurred to him, if we can get people with high talent to mate with each other, prevent people with low talent from mating with each other, we will, within a few generations, create this race of Superman.
Francis Galton was borrowing ideas and kind of riffing off of the work of his half-cousin, Charles Darwin.
Darwin believed that evolution was this natural process that was inevitably leading towards what they call the survival of the fittest. Galton really turns that idea on its head and says, you know, natural selection isn't working very well. We need to do a form of selection. We need to intervene.
To name the effort, Galton had coined the term eugenics, a hybrid derived from two Greek words, meaning well and born. Charles Davenport believed, as Galton did, that selective breeding could transform the human race. What was needed was a scientific understanding of how heredity actually worked. And over dinner at Galton's home, Davenport declared his intention to get to the bottom of it.
Davenport said, I'm going to create a new kind of institution, a station for experimental evolution. Not Darwinian natural selection that you just go out and observe, but can we figure out how inheritance works? Can we do experiments and find patterns of heredity?
When Davenport sailed for home in December 1902, he carried with him not only a letter of recommendation signed by Galton, but also, he later wrote, a renewed courage for the study of evolution.
Davenport and Galton really did imagine that the idea of improving human heredity was of almost religious significance, of profound moral importance. They also believed they were qualified to breed a better race because they believed that they were the best and the brightest.
Scarcely more than a year later, with funding from the Carnegie Institution, Davenport opened his research station
No!
on the shore of Long Island at Cold Spring Harbor. Situated on 10 acres along Oyster Bay, the place had been purpose-built for the breeding and analyzing of plants and animals, complete with sprawling garden plots, an aviary, and a half-dozen tiny enclosures housing chickens, goats, and sheep.
And people.
By meeting organisms with unusual characteristics, a tailless Manx cat or a rooster with a black comb, and then studying their offspring generation after generation, Davenport hoped to unlock the mystery of evolution.
Davenport wasn't yet thinking much about humans. He was just absorbing all these different theories of heredity and trying to figure out which ones applied when and under what conditions.
After scores of experiments, one theory seemed to stand out from the rest. The recently discovered work of an Austrian monk named Gregor Mendel, who had spent a decade in the mid-19th century experimenting with peas.
Mendel learned that there was a pattern to how pea plants passed down certain traits. And you could come up with certain ratios to predict how likely it was that a pea plant would look one way or another.
Davenport took that and ran with it. He goes about breeding all kinds of animals, looking for the Mendelian ratio. And in trait after trait, he seems to find the Mendelian ratio.
Suddenly, we're beginning to see a mathematical, scientific explanation for things that had been merely conjectural before.
It's becoming obvious that, in fact, there are these things called genes. These units are being transmitted from parents to their offspring.
and they're giving rise to physical traits.
By 1906, the work at Cold Spring Harbor had caught the attention of the press and established Charles Davenport as a rising star in the new science of genetics. Thanks to Mendel's laws of heredity, Davenport told one reporter, agricultural breeders could now precisely select for desirable traits to develop a strain of protein-rich wheat or a chicken that laid more eggs. The same method would one day lead, he predicted, to a rapid and thoroughgoing improvement of the human race.
Davenport was tantalized by the possibility that you could take charge of human evolution. And then along comes Mendelian genetics, which seems to offer a very powerful tool. So extrapolating from the work that the breeders were doing in animals to the breeding of better human beings was a natural step.
In 1909, Davenport informed his funder, the Carnegie Institution, that he'd shifted his focus from the breeding of cats and roosters to an investigation of human traits. Having already found the Mendelian ratio in early studies of eye color and hair color, and convinced he was on the right track, he now began to collect data on a wide range of other human characteristics. He sent out a family history questionnaire to hundreds of individuals and solicited prisons, hospitals, and educational institutions.
No, are you fucking serious?
You can't really do breeding experiments with human beings. Aside from the ethics, you just can't live long enough to see generations and generations. So it was Davenport's genius to realize if he could collect family pedigrees, he could trace family inheritances and try to prove that evolution works for human beings the way it works for animals.
Davenport's plan was to analyze the pedigree charts for Mendelian patterns and to identify the desirable traits human beings might encourage through careful breeding, and the undesirable ones they could breed out.
Wouldn't it be a better world if we could wipe out poverty? Wouldn't it be a better world if we didn't have criminals? Wouldn't it be a better world if everyone behaved themselves? And if the reason we have poverty and crime is something that's determined by our genes, if we can change that and make it so that the people who have those bad traits don't pass them down, wouldn't that be a better world?
Among Americans of Charles Davenport's class and generation, there was perhaps no word that had more currency at the turn of the century than improvement. They had come of age in the midst of a revolution, a seismic shift that had made the United States the most prosperous and powerful nation.
The Industrial Revolution.
And in the eyes of many, that simultaneously plunged it into chaos.
It's the beginning of the 20th century. We have rampant urbanization, rampant industrialization, rampant immigration. The old order is passing, and wherever you look, society seems to be deteriorating.
More and more farms were giving way to factories, and the cities were overrun with newcomers. Many from the countryside, many hundreds of thousands more from abroad.
There was impure water, and the schools were awful, and the disease was rampant, and immigrants were pouring in.
People were apprehensive about rapid change, about the kinds of people you saw on the streets. Slums, crime, alcoholism, prostitution. Native white Protestants felt that they were losing control of American society.
determined not only to meet the new challenges, but to master them. A veritable army of educated middle and upper middle class Americans have launched a crusade to remake society, to eliminate corruption, stamp out disease and vice, assimilate the immigrant, and uplift the poor. All in the name of progress.
The world had never seen invention as powerful and remarkable and as influential as the last 3 decades of the 19th century. This fueled an already existing American optimism about what can be improved. And it directed it into a particular track, which was scientific improvement.
There is a great belief in science.
Still
There's
going
a great
on.
belief in government, in bureaucracy, as a tool for solving social problems. And also a belief in collectivism, that the population needs to work together to improve society.
The progressive movement said we can use state power and expert advice and knowledge to solve things like poverty, to solve things like alcoholism. So that was an incredibly hopeful and optimistic idea. Eugenics was part of that.
Oh no.
When the letter from Charles Davenport arrived in 1909 at New Jersey's Vineland Training School for the Feeble-Minded, the staff hadn't known quite what to make of it. A mere 2-line note requesting hereditary information. One of hundreds Davenport had sent.
Wow.
Davenport investigated any and all traits. Eye color, weight, mood, habit, temperament, diseases, anything. And then he finds this psychologist in New Jersey, and he begins to zero in on low intelligence, something known as feeble-mindedness.
Psychologist Henry Goddard, Vineland's director of research, had no family histories to share. But what he lacked in data, he more than made up for with enthusiasm. Not only was Goddard interested in the new science of heredity, he asked Davenport to guide him in making his own study of feeble-mindedness.
Like lots of people who are working in institutions, doctors or social workers, Henry Goddard was interested in identifying the kinds of conditions that were passed down in heredity and preventing them.
Henry Goddard was 42 and a one-time teacher in Quaker schools. It was in part an interest in education that had brought him to Vineland in 1906. He'd spent the 3 years since trying to parse the many varieties of feeble-mindedness, an all too common mental deficiency associated with antisocial behavior. Some of Vineland's 300 inmates were violent or deranged, others unruly, still others merely slow. Hoping to improve their individual care and training, Goddard had pioneered the use of an intelligence test, which purported to measure a person's mental abilities in relation to that of so-called normal people of the same age. The scores enabled him to sort his charges into categories. To the existing classifications of idiot and imbecile, which long had been used to describe debilitating mental impairment, Goddard had added the third, a higher functioning group he called morons.
That was actually a diagnostic term and not just an insult. Henry Goddard argued the high-grade moron is high-functioning enough to act normal, but they're kind of stuck in this evolutionary phase, and they don't emerge as true adults. What's missing is moral judgment. So Goddard constructs that term moron, and mental deficiency and immorality become basically interchangeable.
Now, with Davenport's tutoring, Goddard began to survey the family histories of 35 of his students at Vineland. What he found made him instant believer in eugenics. Not only did morons seem clearly to pass on their feeble-mindedness to their offspring, their family trees often were rife with alcoholics, prostitutes, criminals, and paupers. As Goddard put it to the New Jersey State Conference of Charities and Corrections in 1910, feeble-mindedness is at the root of probably 2/3 of the problems that you have before you. The cause was defective ancestry.
Henry Goddard puts forward this idea that if you got rid of feeble-mindedness, you would get rid of all of these problems, or at least greatly reduce them. And we love explanations like that. It's so simple. Oh, it's just feeble-mindedness. So that's the fix.
Goddard reasoned that if the test he devised to better care for the feeble-minded instead were used to identify them, the contagion could be halted, and future generations spared the scourges of mental deficiency.
Henry Goddard said, it takes an expert to identify the true menace of feeble-mindedness. So someone you're sitting next to at a restaurant or in a theater could look perfectly normal to you, and it only takes one feeble-minded person marrying another one, even someone who's not feeble-minded, to create generations of feeble-mindedness. What it did is up the stakes of feeble-mindedness by claiming that it was a hidden menace that was more difficult to pinpoint than people might think.
By early 1910, Charles Davenport was convinced that certain human traits were passed down in a predictable way, and that American society could be dramatically improved if only reproduction were controlled. Anxious to spread the word, he began to lay plans for a new institution dedicated to eugenic research and education. In February, in search of a patron, Davenport traveled to New York to lunch with Mrs. E.H. Harriman, widow of a recently deceased railroad magnate.
Davenport's pitch to Mrs. Harriman was to say, right now you give your money to all kinds of good organizations. They feed the poor, they clothe the poor, they do many wonderful things, but it's never ending. With eugenics, we eventually won't need your philanthropy and charity because we'll solve the problems that right now you're just throwing money at. He persuaded Mrs. Harriman that the future of the country was at stake and that only a eugenic project could save it.
Wow.
Charles Davenport says, all you people who think that if we just educate the poor, if we just give them charity, if we just reform their environment, even the poor can rise to our level, forget about it. That's just sentimental hogwash. It's not the environment that makes you what you are. It's your genetic inheritance from your parents. So now, yes, let's regulate the matings of human beings, eliminate the bad genes from the population, and keep the fittest genes in the gene pool.
By limiting the birth of people who were deemed to be unfit, you were, by definition, enhancing the stock of human society. And so there was this social mission of really fighting dependency, fighting crime through eugenics. The idea was that eugenics would solve all of these broader social problems if enacted in a robust way.
Mrs. Harriman was a great believer in the importance of proper matings. She credited her late husband's interest in horse breeding for that, and she enthusiastically pledged to finance Davenport's eugenic enterprise. It was, Davenport later wrote in his journal, a red-letter day for humanity.
The impulse to perfect humanity is an ancient aspiration. The idea that somehow or the other that you can get the best humans by selectively breeding the best, most fit most beautiful. It's an ancient desire. You find it in Sanskrit texts. You find it in Greek texts. The trouble is that only some human beings can dictate or decide what the correct features might be. Who decides?
Charles Davenport thought by breeding a superior race of people, we can bring about the millennial kingdom on earth.
The problem with utopias is that they set a set of aspirations that then blind you to a certain set of consequences. And that can be dangerous.
In October 1910, on an 80-acre plot adjacent to the Cold Spring Harbor campus, Charles Davenport opened the doors of his new institute. It was a modest structure built for a grand purpose: to house hereditary information on American families and use it to guide the reproductive choices of the nation.
Okay.
He called it the Eugenics Record Office.
Damn it, fucking bitch.
Eugenic ideas were very much floating around as early as 18.
Oh, fuck yeah. No.
But Davenport gave eugenics.
Fucking bitch.
He was institutionalizing eugenics. He was marshaling people around a research program.
Davenport already had assembled a prestigious board of scientific directors. Among them, prominent scientists, physicians, and
landlord is
What did I just do?
Bell.
press a magical
Day-to-day
button.
operations, meanwhile, would be